Hello everyone, my name is Naina and I'm from the Buddhi Academy. So today we'll see the chapter Biomolecules. So in our last video we have seen about the enzymes and vitamins. Now in today's video we'll see about the nucleic acids and hormones. So in today's video we'll see basically what nucleic acids are, their classification and structure, and a short note about hormones. So let's start with the video. Nucleic acid. Every generation of each and every species resembles its ancestors in many ways. So how are these characteristics transmitted from one generation to the next? As you know, we resemble our parents, our grandparents, some of our relatives, right? Now every generation and each species resembles its ancestors in many ways, right? We have many features which are similar to our ancestors. Now how these characteristics are transmitted from them to us? That has been observed that nucleus of a living cell is responsible for this transmission inherited characters, also called as heredity. Now why we get these characteristics or from where these characteristics are transmitted to us is basically the nucleus of the living organisms. Okay, the nucleus of a living cell, because our body is completely made up of cells, right? So nucleus of a living cell is responsible for this transmission inherited characteristics and also known as heredity. We say no, we have hereditary diseases and all. We have got it from our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents and all. Now, the particles of nucleus of the cell responsible for heredity are called chromosomes. Now, we know that nucleus is the one which is responsible for the transmission of characteristics. Now, in the nucleus, what is the one which is exactly transmitting this characteristics or the heredity? Now, the particle in nucleus of the cell which is responsible for the heredity is called the chromosomes, which are made up of proteins and another type of biomolecule called nucleic acids. Now, these chromosomes, they are made up of proteins. Okay, proteins we have already seen, and there is another type of biomolecule which is involved in the formation of this chromosome is the nucleic acids, which we are going to see now. Now these are mainly two types. Okay, there are two types of nucleic acid: deoxyribonucleic acid and ribonucleic acid. I hope in biology you know what these terms mean, that is DNA and RNA. Now, since nucleic acids are long chain polymers of nucleotides since nucleic acids are long chain polymers of nucleotides, so they are also called as polynucleotides. Okay, since they are made up of long chain nucleotides. Now chemical composition of nucleic acid. Now what is the chemical composition of nucleic acid? What is how the nucleic acid is formed chemically? Now, complete hydrolysis of DNA or RNA yields pentose sugar, phosphoric acid and nitrogen containing heterocyclic compound called bases. Okay, so when you hydrolyze, when you break the DNA or RNA, what all things we get is we get a pentose sugar, we get a phosphoric acid and a heterocyclic compound which contains nitrogen, and we call it as bases. Okay, in DNA molecules the sugar moiety is beta D2 deoxyribose, whereas in RNA it is beta D ribose. Okay, now beta D ribose, this is the sugar moiety for, we get pentose sugar, right? Now for RNA the pentose sugar that we get is beta D ribose sugar. Okay, and for DNA we get beta D 2 deoxyribose sugar. At why 2 deoxy? Because here you can see there is OH group, but here do we see an OH group? No. Now this OH group is deoxy, means the oxygen is removed from here. So the oxygen from the carbon 2 ka OH is removed. That's why it is 2-deoxyribose. Okay. Now DNA contains 4 bases. Now as I told you there is a heterocyclic compound which is called as base, and to this base the phosphoric acid and the sugar moieties are attached. Now that base contains 4, or DNA, it contains 4 bases, 4 different types of bases. First one is adenine, second is guanine, cytosine and thymine. Okay. Now RNA contains the 4 bases. Okay. For DNA and RNA, both of them contains 4 bases. Okay. But in RNA there is a difference. There is only one difference, that is in place of thymine you have uracil. Okay. The fourth one in DNA is thymine, whereas in RNA it is uracil. So for DNA it is AGCT, whereas in RNA it is AGCU. So the fourth one is different for both of them. Now this is the structure of adenine, this is the structure of guanine, cytosine, thymine and uracil. Okay, these are the structures of the 5 nitrogen bases. Now, how the structure of nucleic acid looks. Now we have seen on hydrolysis, we know we get a pentose sugar base, there is a pentose sugar, there is phosphoric acid, then again there is a nitrogen containing heterocyclic compound called as bases. Now we have seen the structure of sugar, how a sugar moiety looks like. Phosphoric acid, we know how it is. Now these are the 4 bases that can be seen. Okay, now we have seen each of their structure singly. Combining them we get the structure of a nucleic acid. Now a unit formed by attachment of a base of one position of sugar is known as nucleoside. Okay, now this is a nucleoside. Okay, why this is a nucleoside is because, or what a nucleoside is, when to a sugar base, okay, this is a ribose sugar, right, beta D ribose sugar. Now to this ribose sugar, when the base attaches, any one base, it can be adenine, guanine, cytosine, uracil, any one base it can be. So when to a sugar moiety a base is attached, now this structure is known as the nucleoside. Okay, so when to a sugar moiety a base is attached, it is known as nucleosides. In nucleosides, the sugar carbons are numbered as 1 dash 2 dash 3 dash etc. in order to distinguish these from the bases. Now why they have numbered them as 1 dash 2 dash is because you know the structure of base. If cytosine is attached to the sugar moiety, there is also carbon atoms which are attached in cytosine also, no? So distinguish them from this carbon atoms. The sugar ka carbon atoms are labeled as 1 dash 2 dash 3 dash etc. Now when nucleoside is linked to phosphoric acid at 5 dash position of sugar moiety, we get nucleotide. Now what is a nucleotide? To 1 dash carbon when we have a base, and when at 5 dash carbon when we have a phosphoric acid. Okay, this entirely is known as nucleotide. Okay, what is nucleoside? Sugar moiety plus base. Okay, sugar moiety plus base is known as nucleoside. Now when we have a sugar moiety plus base plus phosphoric acid. PO4 minus. When we have sugar moiety, base and a phosphoric acid, it is the nucleotide. Okay. Now what is nucleoside? Sugar moiety with base is nucleoside. Sugar moiety with base and with phosphoric acid is nucleotide. Okay. Now nucleotides are joined together by phosphodiester linkage between 5' carbon and 3' carbon atoms of pentose sugar. The formation of a typical dinucleotide. Now these nucleotides, okay, they are joined to one another. Now how they are joined to one another? 5' carbon containing the phosphorus group is attached to the 3' carbon of another pentose sugar. Okay. Now if this is one pentose sugar or this is one nucleotide, similarly if we take another nucleotide, now that other nucleotide का phosphorus group will attach to the third carbon का OH group, and this linkage is done by a phosphodiester bond. Okay, here you can see, so this is one nucleotide, this is another nucleotide, right? So this is the carbon 3' and this is the 5' carbon containing the phosphoric group, phosphoric acid. Now this linkage is known as phosphodiester linkage. 3' of one sugar moiety and 5' of another sugar moiety containing the phosphoric acid group. Now like this, many nucleotides are formed, many nucleotides are joined together to form a nucleic acid. Now a simple version of nucleic acid chain is shown below. Now this is the simple version of a nucleic acid chain. Sugar with base and phosphate. Again the phosphate attaches to another sugar, base, phosphate. Now this continues for a long time. Now this is the double stranded helix structure of a DNA. Now information regarding the sequence of nucleotides in the chain of a nucleic acid is called primary structure. Now the information regarding the sequence of nucleotides, which nucleotide will attach first, which nucleotide will attach second, that sequential arrangement of nucleotides when happens, that is the primary structure. Okay, now nucleic acid have a secondary structure also. Now there is a secondary structure also which was given by James Watson and Franz Crick, Watson and Crick's model, if you remember properly. That is the double helix model of the, or double strand helix model of the DNA, okay, which was given by Watson and Crick. Now that is the secondary structure to the nucleic acid. Now two nucleic acid chains are wounded about each other and held together by hydrogen bonds between pairs of bases. Okay, now how they are wound together? They two nucleic acid chains are bound together and are attached, bound together to each other by joining the two bases by the formation of hydrogen bonds. Okay, now the two strands are complementary to each other because the hydrogen bonds are formed between specific pairs of bases. Now both of the strands are complementary to each other. Complementary means they are opposite to each other, they complement each other because the bases, they form some specific pairs. That means adenine with certain other base. For example, here they have given adenine forms hydrogen bond with thymine only. It can't form a hydrogen bond with guanine or cytosine. It will form only with thymine. Now cytosine can only form with guanine. Got it? So there is a specific sequence in which they are paired. So both the strands are complementary to each other. So if one strand has adenine, then the other strand will have a complement to that, that is the thymine, so that they can bound together. Got it? Now, in secondary structure of RNA, single-stranded helix is present, which sometimes fold back on itself. Okay, but RNA doesn't have a double helix secondary structure. It has only a single. Okay, but it folds on itself. The RNA molecules are of three types and they perform different functions. Now there are three types of RNA molecules. Okay, they are messenger RNA, that is mRNA, ribosomal RNA, that is rRNA, and transfer RNA or tRNA. Okay, all these three RNAs, they function differently. Messenger RNA, it sends a messenger. Okay, ribosomal RNA, it carries the ribosomes. tRNA, that is your transfer RNA, transfers the product from one place to another. I hope all the functions of these molecules are there for you in your biological section. It is where these RNAs are basically found in the transcription, translation, replication of DNA. Okay, where replication, transcription, translation takes place of a protein molecule, there these RNAs are involved. Okay, now biological function of nucleic acid. What is the biological function of nucleic acid? Now DNA is the chemical basis of heredity and many be regarded as the reserve of genetic information. You know, DNA, it has a chemical base, right? It is made up of chemical molecules of heredity, but it may be regarded as a reserve for genetic information because DNA reserves our genetic information, and DNA is exclusively responsible for maintaining the identity of different species of organisms over millions of years. Since the features we show of our ancestors is basically because of the DNA that we have, so it stores the identity of different species of organisms over millions of years. Now a DNA molecule is capable of self-duplication during cell division, and identical DNA strands are transferred to daughter cells. Now as I told you, there is self-duplication. Now this process is known as replication, and the formation of a new identical DNA strand and transfer it to a daughter cell. This entire process takes place from replication, transcription and translation. Okay, now actually another important function of nucleic acid is the protein synthesis in the cell. Okay, actually the protein is synthesized by various RNA molecules in the cell, but the message of synthesis of particular protein is present in DNA. So other than replicating the DNA into an identical strand and transferring it to a daughter cell, other than that, this DNA plays an important role in synthesis, or the nucleic acid plays an important role in synthesis of protein molecules in our body. Okay, so that is the biological function of nucleic acid. Now the last part of this chapter is the hormones. Now what are hormones? Now hormones are the molecules that act as a intercellular messengers. Okay, hormones, they act as a intercellular messengers. These are produced by endocrine glands in body and are poured directly into the bloodstream, which transports them to the site of action. So basically hormones are the messengers or the intercellular messengers. They are produced in the endocrine glands and are transferred to the site of requirement. Okay, where through blood streams. Now in terms of chemical nature, some of these are steroids. Okay, some of the hormones are steroids, for example estrogens and androgens. Some are polypeptides, for example insulin and endorphins, and some others are amino acid derivatives such as epinephrine and norepinephrine. Now these are the examples of hormones. Okay, in terms of their chemical nature, some of them are steroids, some of them are polypeptides, and some of them are derivatives of amino acids, and their examples is given. Now, hormones have several functions in our body, so they have different functions in our body. They help to maintain the balance of biological activities in the body. That is the one function. So since hormones have several functions, one among them is to help and maintain the balance of biological activities in our body. The role of insulin is keeping blood glucose level within a narrow limit. Okay, why insulin is taken? Insulin is taken to control our blood glucose level, right? Now is an example of this function. Okay, now, biological activities, they help in maintaining the balance of biological activities, right? Now example is your insulin, so which keeps the blood glucose level within control in our body. Now if insulin is released in response to a rapid rise in blood glucose level, okay, so when is insulin released? When the blood glucose level in our body increases, that time to suppress that insulin is released. Now in some diabetic patients, the main reason is the non-release of this insulin moiety. So what happens is we give those patients insulin externally to control their blood glucose level. So on the other hand, hormone like glucagon tends to increase the glucose level in the blood. So there are certain hormones which can balance and certain hormones which can cause an imbalance also. Now, insulin can balance the blood glucose level in our body, whereas there is another hormone which is known as glucagon which can increase the blood glucose level in the body. So if our body tends to have a low, okay, if it increases, we can take insulin and maintain it, right? But what if it decreases? What if blood glucose level decreases? At that time, glucagon plays an important role to increase the glucose level in our body. Now the two hormones together regulate the glucose level in the blood. So insulin and glucagon along with each other, they regulate the level of glucose in our body. So if glucose level increases, insulin will take action. If glucose level decreases, glucagon will take action. So both of them together, they maintain the blood glucose level in our body. The next example is epinephrine and norepinephrine, which mediate the response to external stimuli. Now, growth hormones and sex hormones play important role in growth and development. So there are growth hormones and sex hormones in our body, right? So female have different sex hormones, males have different sex hormones, which are important for our growth and development. Another one is the thyroxine. Okay, thyroxine produced in the thyroid gland. So where is the thyroid gland present? It is in near our neck. So the thyroid gland, okay, the thyroxine is produced by the thyroid gland in thyroid gland, which is an iodinated derivative of amino acid, that is tyrosine. Okay, so thyroxine, which is produced in thyroid gland, is a derivative of tyrosine. Okay, derivative of an amino acid, that is tyrosine. Okay, the abnormally low level of thyroxine leads to hypothyroidism. There are thyroid, we say no, I have thyroid, or your mom may say she has thyroid. Now this thyroid can cause of two different conditions. Okay, one where the thyroxine level, okay, thyroxine level decreases. Okay, low level of thyroxine, which leads to hypothyroidism. Okay, hypothyroidism means low level of thyroxine in our body. Now how we can identify is basically because the symptoms can be lethargy or obesity. You can gain more weight when you have hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism is basically because of less amount or low concentration of thyroxine hormone. But what if there is an increased level of thyroxine? What if thyroxine increases? It causes hypothyroidism. Okay. Now, low level of iodine in the diet may lead to hypothyroidism. Now, what can cause hypothyroidism? Hypothyroidism can cause because of the low amount of iodine in our diet. So, if we take food which are rich in iodine, it can prevent us from hypothyroidism. Okay, and enlargement of the thyroid gland. So hypothyroidism can later lead to the enlargement of our thyroid gland. Now this condition is largely being controlled by adding sodium iodide to commercial table salt. That's why we get iodized salt, right? So we have to use iodized salt because iodized salt, they contain sodium iodide in that, and iodine can increase the production, or it can maintain the production of thyroxine, which can prevent us from getting hypothyroidism and enlargement of thyroid gland. Now another one is the steroid hormones. Now steroid hormones are produced by adrenal cortex and gonads, that is testes in male and ovaries in females. Now steroid hormones, they are produced in adrenal cortex and gonads. Gonads, in male it is the testes, in female it is the ovaries. Now, hormones released by the adrenal cortex play very important role in the function of the body. Now hormones which are released from the adrenal cortex plays an important role in the functioning of our body. For example, glucocorticoids, which control the carbohydrate metabolism, modulate inflammatory reactions, and are involved in reactions to stress. Okay, now glucocorticoid is a steroid hormone which is released from the adrenal cortex, and this glucocorticoid controls the carbohydrate mechanism. Okay, it modulates the inflammatory reactions. Inflammatory reactions means whenever there is an inflammation. Okay, and it is also involved in the stress reactions. Whenever we get stressed, it is basically because of the release of glucocorticoids. Now the mineralocorticoids control the level of excretion of water and salt by the kidney. Now, there is another one, that is mineralocorticoid, which controls the level of excretion of water and salt by a kidney. If adrenal cortex does not function properly, then one of the results may be Addison diseases. So if adrenal cortex it doesn't function properly, okay, if it doesn't function properly and these hormones are not, or these steroidal hormones are not released, okay, then the result will be the Addison's disease, which is characterized by hypoglycemia, weakness, and increased susceptibility to stress. Okay, you can get constant stress if the adrenal cortex doesn't function properly. The disease is fatal unless it is treated by glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. So it can be fatal. Fatal means it can be life threatening, okay, unless you treat it with glucocorticoid and mineralocorticoids. Now hormones released by gonads. Gonads are testes for male and ovaries for female. Now they are responsible for the secondary sex characters. Now which are they? Testosterone is the major sex hormone produced in males, and it is responsible for the development of secondary characteristics, that is deep voice, facial hair, general physical constitutions. Okay, now gonads, they release the hormones which are responsible for the secondary sex characteristics. Now testosterone is the major sex hormone produced in the males, and it is responsible for the development of their secondary characteristics, that is their deep voice, facial hairs, general and physical constitution. And estradiol is the main female sex hormone, and it is responsible for the development of the secondary female characteristics and participates in the control of menstrual cycle. Okay, now estradiol is in females, okay, and it is responsible for the female secondary characteristics, and it also participates in the controlation of menstrual cycles. Now progesterone is responsible for preparing uterus for implantation of fertilized egg. Now once you are grown up, mature, married, and ready to conceive a baby, progesterone is the one which is responsible for preparing the uterus, okay, for implantation of fertilized eggs. Okay, now these are the hormones. So with this we have finished with the chapter. So in today's video we have seen about the nucleic acid. Okay, what are nucleic acids, then what is its chemical compositions, each of that, a pentose sugar base, then a nitrogenous base. Again we have seen what is a nucleoside and a nucleotide. So many nucleotides together, when they join, you get a nucleic acid chain, and these two nucleotides are joined together or are bonded together using a phosphodiester linkage. Then we have seen the double stranded helix structure of DNA, how they are formed, biological functions of nucleic acid, and then we have seen hormones, different types of hormones and their functions in our body. So thank you for watching my video. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.